Okay, there's a whole mystical element of symbolism and how it relates to these symbols. I wonder what I can do, if I can do this here. No, I don't think I can. Okay, so, but if you drew the Aries symbol out on a paper big, or just you make a symbol of Aries in front of you on a piece of paper or something, so, but make it a little big, and then put your finger right at the bottom of the Aries. So you put your finger at the bottom point of the Aries. And this test was it was an old Pythagorean test that to see if you would be allowed into the mystery schools to study astrology or to study the mystery schools of Pythagoras. So in one test, he would decide whether you could get in or not. So you take your finger, you put it at the bottom, and just quickly, now hopefully all are doing that. So because once I told you that it's not the test anymore, you'll know it. So you put your finger at the bottom and you run it right up to the top quickly and run it right up to the end. And you have to go to one side or the other. You just run it up and go right to the end, go to one side or the other. And once you've gone to, okay, so I'm assuming you've done that. And those of you who went to the right, we're on the righteous path, we're on the right-handed side, you're on the aspiring path, and you were allowed to come into the mystery school. If you went to the left, it meant you were still caught up in the worldly world, and you were not allowed to be into the mystery schools. You'd have to try again some later time. And that was, they just decided it like that. So it was, there are different levels of geometrical tests. This is thousands of years ago, like that people were working with their intelligence like this. As long as there's been everywhere astrology has peaked, anywhere there's been a peak of civilization, a great renaissance or a peak of civilization in a city, in a country, anywhere, there's always been astrology associated with it. So there's, when you start, once I learned astrology, I had to reread almost everything I ever read because I understood it differently. And it just opened up literature. I mean, understanding Shakespeare without knowing astrology, whoa. Understanding Canterbury's Tales without astrology. And, well, in some places in India and China, astrology is more integrated and people are used to it all the time. Here, we've had a strong Christian point of saying, oh, this is bad, we can't do this. But people still, the intelligence is still there. So, okay. When you briefly look at these, so that's the Aries symbol. Taurus, the circle is for the sun and the crescent's for the moon. And that's the symbol of Taurus. Gemini, the planet of duality, is two pillars, like almost like a number 2. Cancer is the moon and the breast, so you see the two circles running together. Leo is supposed to represent the head and the hair, and so it's like a picture of hair on a head. Virgo is more analytical, critical, and it's really like, it looks like an M with a cross on, a little bends over with an extra loop that comes over, but it's really supposed to represent almost like the intestines and the critical factor of what's healthy, what's not healthy. These factors come out of it. But Libra is a symbol of balance, so you see these two factors balancing on each other. Scorpio is the M, but unlike the Virgo, which has a cross on it, Scorpio has the arrow. It comes up into an arrow representing the sexuality. So, and then Sag wants to exaggerate what happens from Scorpio. Like there's a stage, a process of these going along. So Scorpio has the passion, but secretive about it. Sag has the passion, but wants to magnify and exaggerate everything and see everything they can do. So you have the arrow magnified for Sagittarius. Capricorn, it's really a symbol of the knees, the joint of the knees. So, and it rules your bones and your teeth and your knees and your joints. So you come down, this isn't really a good symbol of it. It should be more like a V, a little V, and then go into this circle on the bottom. Then at the last point, Aquarius, the two up and down ones, it's as if you put a little stick of incense or a candle on each ankle and you stepped, each one is each of your ankles as you're moving, as you're stepping. And that's the Aquarian wave. It rules the ankles. It's an air sign. So we'll get into all these things more. And Pisces is two crescents for two fish tied by a string. So this was the basic symbol. you need to just remember them and write them out so you got them. I'm not going to stay here, so we're going to go on. And so that's 12 symbols to remember. Then you have the 12 planets to remember. So usually we're familiar with the moon as a crescent. Usually on a chart, I will draw the moon as a circle half shaded. So we see the moon like this, but it's your choice. Mercury has a cross, a circle, and a crescent. The cross is the Earth, the circle is really for Venus, and the crescent is for the second planet from Earth going in. So when you look at Venus, it's a cross with a crescent, so it's the first planet in from Earth. Then you have the Sun, which is a circle with a dot. Then you have the Mars, which is a circle with the arrow, so it's the first planet outside of the Earth where we put our energy out. So you see the arrow outside. I don't know if I'm going too fast. I'm just going to talk through this, and we'll get through it, and then we'll get on to some more detailed things. But Jupiter has a crescent of the moon and the cross of the Earth, but because it's an outer planet, there's the cross, and then it's on the outside, so it's the next one out from Mars, but it's the cross is usually the Earth, and then there's Jupiter. So that's the symbol of Jupiter, like a number 4. Saturn is a cross, and it comes down further, curves around, almost like an H, but it has a funny curl on it. But that's Saturn. Again, it's the cross, and then it's one of the outer planets, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. So they have the cross in a different way. The 2 inner ones, Mercury and Venus, have the cross on the bottom underneath the circle. Okay. The outer planets, which are newly added in this century, or last few centuries, Uranus is it's off. I think of it as an antenna, but you have like an H, and then you have a line coming down through the center of the capital H with a circle on it. So and there's not such a depth of symbolism around it. It's how it evolved around it. There is. Neptune has the 3 tridents and a cross, the cross and the 3 tridents above it. And sometimes on some of my charts, you'll see the Neptune drawn with a circle and like it's an underwater plant. So these are 2 symbols. You can see either one of them on some of the charts we use. And Pluto, some books use PL, like a Pierre Cardin symbol for Pluto. But I tend to use the symbol, which is a circle detached from the crescent with the cross underneath it. The cross, the crescent, and it's almost like the furthest one out there. But this is the only one where the circle isn't connected to the rest of the symbol. Then those are the planets we're going to use. There's other planets. There's Chiron. There's the new planets. There's going to be discovering so many planets, and people will putting all of these in the charts. In another 50 years, there'll be so many things in the chart. But the main things, my whole approach to astrology is that the main things are in the main things you can see. The 7 planets you can see up to Saturn, the moon, the sun, and up to Saturn are the most noble and dignified ones you see it. They give us the better messages. The other ones are more subtle and inner qualities or hidden qualities. So as they come in, new planets will come in with new meanings written to them, but it'll take 100 years or more of watching them and watching the charts to really come down to how it really works. So that's always a work in progress. The nodes are usually symbols. They have the circle with a bigger loop and another circle. And when the loop is on the top, that's the north node. And when the loop is on the bottom, it's the south node. So we often see these are put on a chart like planets. You read it like on a chart like planets, but they're not planets. They're really the points that measure when a planet is going north or south of the plane of the Earth, whether it's going up above it or below it. So what this means with the moon, when the moon and the sun are together, if it's a new moon, and they're right on at the same point, right on the node, there's going to be an eclipse. But often the new moon and full moon comes together, and they're above each other. They're not on the same level, so we just get the new moon or the full moon. We don't get an eclipse. But when it's near the nodes, there'll be an eclipse. And the north node is generally given a better, more positive interpretation than the south. But these are symbols that are there. On some of my charts, you'll see them like an arrow. The north node is the arrow pointing, and the south node is the bottom of the arrow around the chart. I did that so they would fit right into the degrees very easily. The other 4 symbols you need to know are for the houses. Well, the houses are generally numbered 1 to 12, but there's the ascendant or rising sign, the eastern horizon, and we just use it as ASC, ascendant. And most of Europe will use it like that. In the East, they may have other names for it, other symbols for it, but this has generally been passed on by these words: ascendant for the eastern part of where the zodiac is rising in the east. The descendant is where the zodiac is setting in the west. So the sun will be on the ascendant at sunrise. It'll be on the descendant at sunset. The MC is the midheaven. It's the highest point of the zodiac in the sky. So the sun will be on the midheaven for true noon. Not the noon on the clocks, but for proper noon, the noon will be at the highest, the sun will be at the highest point in this chart. At noon, it'll be on the midheaven, conjunct the midheaven. So if you're born at noon and there's no daylight saving time or anything, when you see your chart, you'll see the chart will be very on the top of the chart on the midheaven. And the IC is the lowest point in the chart beneath you. It's the midnight point, part underneath you, more subjective point. So, and these symbols, the ascendant, descendant, MC, IC, usually will be on the chart. So this is basically the symbols that you need to learn. There's a few more that there's another sheet here that gives you all the aspects. The aspects are just the relationships between planets and measure the stress factors that happen between planets. And it's the same as people, any relationship. We start in a conjunction. So the first one is a circle with 1 bar, 2 people in conjunction. They're right together. And that's when, I'm not getting into big interpretation, that's just the energy starts. When 2 people are opposed to each other, as far away as they can be, or 2 planets are opposed themselves in the chart, it's 2 circles opposed to each other with a line joining them. So you see the opposition. When you take 1/3 of a chart, at 120 degrees apart, you have the trine, and that symbol is 3 trines, 320-degree angles in the whole circle. So it's represents a trine. It's a harmonious aspect. So on the color system here, the red will be the stress factors. Blue and green will be more harmonious factors. So the trine's harmonious. The square is when there's 90 degrees. It's a half moon. So like it's 4 90-degree angles. So it's represented as a square for a 90-degree angle. The sextile, there's 6 60-degree sextiles. See, 6 divisions of 60 degrees in the zodiac. So if you draw 3 lines, so 6 lines, each one's making 60-degree division. And that's a symbol for 60 degrees. Then there's 2 other ones those are the major aspects, the main ones. If something's major in your life, if something's in a major factor, it's going to be seen in these major ones. The other ones are all smaller divisions. They're not used. You can look at them for yourself, but you wouldn't use them that much in doing someone else's chart. The semi-square is 45 degrees. It's another stress factor. And 135, which is square and a half, is another one, which is a square with another little square on it. So these are the symbols. The other ones I'm not going to go into. We'll be spending some time on the aspects. We'll go into this later. But it's just getting used to the symbols and seeing them. Okay. Now, if any of you get lost or have to ask something, you can make under chat at the bottom. You can type a message. But hopefully we can just get through this, and we'll go through this fairly quickly.